Hey, Scotty.
Hey, Bob.
Nice to see you, buddy. It's good. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays to you, sir. The turkey's done, and it's time for Christmas.
Yeah.
And that came up pretty quick, didn't it?
Sure did.
You know, we all love entertaining. We all love the holidays. But, you know, Bob, the worst part about having guests over and all that entertaining is no matter how it works out.
No matter how much you plan.
No matter how much you plan, it all rolls around dinner time, and they all look at you and go,
"What's for dinner?"
"What's for dinner?" God bless them. So let's talk about dinner. Let's plan for dinner and make dinner not only a really hearty, wonderful celebration.
Let's make it easy, let's make it fun, and let's make it where the chef or the housewife or the person that cooks can interact and have fun too.
Amen to that, Bob.
And you know what? We're here at Milestone in their culinary center, and we're cooking on Viking tonight. I just want to thank the Milestone family for letting us come in and take over their stuff. Chef Scotty is their executive chef, and he said, "Bob, come in, let's do this and have a good time." Hey, and we did this a year ago. We had a blast.
Yeah.
So we're here to do it again.
Amen.
All right.
So let's do it.
Hey,
so
we're going to do a surf and turf.
We're going to do a surf and turf, and you're going to handle the
Turf.
and I'm going to take the surf. So let's start with the turf. Tell me what we're having in the way of turf today.
Well, I brought in some sirloins.
Okay.
They're nice. They're not quite as tender, say, as a ribeye.
Right.
But they're a whole lot more flavorful than a round steak.
Right.
Or even a KC strip. They're a lot more flavorful. They have a little bit more marbling in them, so they have a little bit more flavor to be added. A marbled steak is the flavored steak.
Yeah, I
so,
agree.
you know, you've really got to look for the marbling in the steak. And these are about a ½ inch to almost 3/4 inch. I cut them off the bone. They were bone in.
Right.
Because I've got a few people to serve here, so I made it a little bit easier.
Got it portioned out.
And we're going to start with that. I have some potatoes in roasting. They're going to continue to roast while we're doing this. So we'll have a little bit going here with a little surf and turf potatoes.
Okay.
And then we'll do the dessert. All right.
Hey, sounds great. But you know, I got to tell you, Bob, I'm a little concerned. One thing about a sirloin, it can be kind of tough. It can be a little chewy.
I've got that handled.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a little intrigued here. How are we going to make that?
You're going to want me to.
that steak.
Excuse me. You're going to want me to tenderize them a little bit. So I brought my tenderizer.
Oh God, Bob, no, please. I think we could do it with something just a little smaller than that.
Sure?
Yeah.
This is a whole lot more fun.
You know, the garden tools certainly intrigue me, but
All right.
let's try something a little bit smaller. Let me show you something. This is one of those little tools that you buy, you put in your drawer, you think you'll never use. This is called a jacquard. And this is my favorite little tool because I get to take inexpensive meat, flavorful meat, and make it very tender. The one thing about a sirloin is that it's got very long muscle tendon,
It's got long
fibers
fiber
to it.
in it.
And all we have to do to break that up, and it's really good that you've seasoned it first, because what we're going to do is just give it a good poking.
And push the seasoning into the meat.
Exactly. Now this is not only just for steaks, Bob, but you can use this on a chicken breast. You can do this on turkey or any kind of pork. Exactly.
Absolutely.
This is a chicken fried steak's best
friend,
right there. So why don't you bang that out, get your steaks laid out. How are you going to season them up? Just salt and pepper?
You know, a little salt and pepper, but I've got a little surprise to finish them off at the end when we're plating. So I'm going to bring that out. It's chilling right now.
Excellent.
I wanted to ask you a question, though, and this is one thing people say.
Yeah.
Do you season the meat before you cook it, or do you wait till after? Now, my thought is, you could do it before. You want to season the meat, let it soak into the meat, and let the meat gather that flavor. And then, do you eat both sides of the steak? Then why do you just season one side and throw it on the grill?
Right.
Season both sides. That way you're eating both sides. You're getting flavor all the way around.
I'm a big fan of that too, Bob. And you know, a lot of people ask and share with me concerns about putting salt on the steak for a period of time before you cook it. Worried about maybe extracting the juices out, drying the steak out, creating a leathery kind of finish. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Up to 3-4 hours, you can put that dry rub on there. You can get some good flavor and really get that steak seasoned up and ready to go.
There's a great dish they make in England where they take a pork loin, put it on a plate, and literally cover it with salt. They make a salt
Sure,
dome.
yeah.
And it's completely covered. When they bring it out of the oven, they have to break the salt off to slice it. And it is not a salty meat.
No, no.
And just as tender and juicy as it can be.
It's wonderful.
So,
Salt's a very friendly spice if you treat it right.
right.
But one thing I will share with you, and probably the most important ingredient that you can put into any meat, especially a good steak, is thyme. This should never come right out of the refrigerator and right onto the grill. This should be on the counter, covered, whatever you want to do, for at least 1 hour's time.
Let it come to room temperature.
Very important,
Yes,
Bob.
sir.
Even with things like chicken or fish, 15, 20 minutes. Now, the only exception I will say about that is ground beef or ground turkey or ground pork. Anything that's ground has so much surface area, don't take the chance. Take it out of the fridge, make it up into what you want, and cook it. There's just too much surface area. But these are going to be much more tender, much more flavorful, much more juicy and perfectly cooked if you let them rest out and warm up before you put them on the grill. And conversely, after they come off the grill, another 5 minutes on the plate to let them reabsorb all those juices.
Right, absolutely. Let them get
Well,
stay
listen,
tender and let them do
You know
some
what you're
juicing.
doing. I'm going to pop over here in a minute and work on my surf.
All right.
Right now for the holidays, I love salmon. Salmon's an all-year kind of fish.
It is an all-year fish, but right now in the cold weather,
Yeah.
they're getting the wild caught in it.
Yeah.
And oh my God, the difference between wild caught and farmed
I know.
is unreal.
It's just amazing, and I gotta share with you. You're worth the difference in cost
Absolutely.
of wild caught and farm raised. Farm raised is not your best friend. This is the most tender, flavorful fish. This is wild caught. It says right on the tag when you buy it. And what I've got is just some very simple skin-on fillets, and I've put a little bit of rub on it. I like flavor on my salmon. This is a molasses bacon rub, and I put a little garlic on there. And while these are broiling, and I'm going to broil this in the oven, broiling is a lost art.
Amen.
It really is.
It
I'll
is.
tell you what, we used to do it all the time and people got away from it. Broiling is amazing in that it kind of encapsulates all the juices and the oils which naturally percolate to the top of the fish when you're cooking it. And at the same time, it just gently warms everything inside so that you get this wonderful pudding-like finish in a fish that's completely cooked with this caramelized topping on it, especially with the sauce that I'm going to be making. So I'm going to put that in a minute, but check out my sauce. Now, with every great fish, there's a fish story, and this is my fish story. I was in Oregon fly fishing for salmon.
Excuse me. Incoming.
Incoming steaks. All right, nicely done there, Bob. So I met these guys. We're out on the deal. We caught a beautiful steelhead salmon. 7:30 in the morning. They gutted it. They laid it out over a grill, over an open fire, and they pulled out the Jack Daniels, some brown sugar, a little bit of soy. I'm using ponzu, which is
All right.
soy with a little bit of citrus, just
Absolutely.
to give it a nice touch, and a little bit of cayenne. And I said, oh, dear God, please don't put that on that beautiful salmon I just caught. They said, try this. Sure enough, it was the best glaze I've ever had. So what I have here is about 2.5 cups of brown sugar. I've got a pinch and a half, 2 pinches of cayenne. If you're from North Texas, that equivocates to about 1.5 cups. I'm just kidding. I'm going to loosen up that brown sugar just a little bit with a couple of 3 shakes.
You eat that much cayenne and you will be loose. I just wanted to say.
Well, but to put out the fire, and this is a campaign, I've been on a one-man campaign to enlighten the world that Jack Daniels is not just a breakfast drink anymore. So I'm going to use a little Jack Daniels, and this happens to be the Jack Daniels with honey.
All
A new
right.
version of it that came out, and it is absolutely wonderful, not only on your salmon sauce, but over your Captain Crunch in the morning as well. So, we're going to just make up a really nice sauce. Now, you're tempted to glaze the fish with it right now, but because it has so much brown sugar to the sauce, then check that out. I have to tell you, if I was a free-swimming fish,
I'll be
this is the
coming
way-
to the boat for that.
this is the way I'd want to be remembered right here. But too much sugar in it, so you do not want to cover the fish at this time. This is that last few minutes under the broiler glaze. So we're gonna let that kind of rest. I'm gonna take this over to the broiler. I'm gonna get this started while Bob does his turf. My surf is gonna be broiling, and then we'll get to the all-important and most important part of the meal, the dessert.
So you'll notice that moved, that doesn't. That moves, that doesn't. So these aren't quite ready yet. I'll turn these, I want them to get almost done because there's going to be residual heat that will keep them cooking, and I want them to be resting for about 10 to 15 minutes, waiting for the salmon to get done, and letting the juices reabsorb back into the steak, and that way you have a beautiful, warm, juicy steak ready to go with the salmon fillets.
You know, Bob, as I'm watching this amazing technique of yours, and I'm just in awe, but I have to ask probably one of the most compelling questions. What's that piece for right there?
That's for the chef,
That's
the taste.
I was really hoping that you'd say that, because
when that little piece is done to perfection, the rest
there's
of them
always
are done
that
to
one
perfection.
lingering little piece in the middle
Always.
that says, you know, that's for us.
Now,
Look at the
how,
color.
yeah, look at
Nice.
how many people around here enjoy a nice rare steak.
Yeah.
Okay? How many people enjoy a medium steak? How many people enjoy a well-done steak? I hope there's nobody. I hope and pray there's nobody.
You know,
Because a well-done steak
There is.
is
though,
charcoal.
Bob. And well, there is. But you know what? I've learned a really neat trick from some of the best steakhouses in the Dallas and throughout the Texas area. There are people that really like their meat cooked medium well, or well done. So I've gone into some of the better steakhouses, and you know how they do it. You never cook a steak past medium rare on the grill.
Right.
Indoors or outdoors, you never cook a steak beyond medium rare on the grill. None of the steakhouses do it. They'll take them off, they'll put them on a plate, and pop them into the oven. At 350 degrees, you take a medium rare steak, pop it in the oven at 350 degrees for 6 to 8 minutes. You're looking at medium well and a perfectly moist, tender steak. This is important because all of those juices and everything that you would look for or hope for in a medium rare steak doesn't have to leave, but would if you left it on the grill.
Correct.
You just bake it out and it'll be wonderful.
Everybody says, how can you tell if they're well, medium, whatever? So I want you to give me an okay sign.
Okay.
That don't mean I'm a great cook. That just means that's the easiest way to tell.
Right,
Right there is rare.
right,
Right there is medium rare.
okay,
Right there is well, or medium.
medium.
And right there is charcoal.
I got you, briquette.
Okay, that's a briquette.
That's a really
So
cool
that's
deal.
real easy.
So you just
You
touch
can
it,
just touch the steak. It's not going to burn you.
That's
And
awesome.
you'll be able to tell just by
and I can
that
tell
feel.
that's a medium rare right there, medium. That's amazing,
Yeah,
Bob.
it's real simple.
Just by the touch of it, and that way you're not sticking the meat, causing it to lose
To
its
lose
juice.
its juices.
Outstanding. All right, I'm going to step back over here to check the broiler out.
Smelling good.
Okay, I've got the broiler on now. Here's a couple of tips I want to give you about broiling. No matter what anybody tells you, Chef Scotty's going to tell you right now, it isn't broiling if you got the door closed. Open door broiling is the only way to do it. If you go into a restaurant, they have what's called a salamander broiler. It's a large tray that has a very intense heat on the top. There is no door on it. If you close this door, it stops becoming a broiler. All the heat generated by the top now goes into the oven, fills the oven, it's high heat baking. Your steaks are gray and lifeless. Your meat doesn't taste anything like you would expect in a broiling experience. Do not close the door. It's 8, maybe 10 minutes at the very most. It's not a lot of heat. It's not a lot of smoke, especially if you use the broiling pan. If an oven company goes to the trouble of giving you the pan, they want you to use it. If you'll notice, this is a very deep pan with large slots in there. All the oils, fats, marinades that would drip off to the side and combust underneath the broiler is now dripping down into the bottom of the pan. As you can see, I've covered the pan, but only the bottom of the pan with foil. Never cover the top with foil. It may be easier to clean, but that foil will melt under the intense heat of that broil. Whether the door is open a little bit or fully open doesn't matter. The real trick is to leave the door open and let the radiant heat char the surface and gently warm all the way through without overcooking, without high heat baking your fish, your steak, whatever you're cooking. It's a magical way to cook.
I'm going to